Hello 8th class students. Now we are going to start the chapter coal and petroleum. It is very important chapter because there is a continuation of coal and petroleum. Like it will be again continuing in your chapter 8. So next chapter is also related, and even coal and petroleum is very important. These two chapters are related only. Now I'm going to present you few videos, a combination of clips which will help you analyze what exactly is the coal and petroleum. Then we'll be starting with the explanation part, and then again last minute, then again in the next week you'll get my explanation, which will be of the textbook activities. Then we'll be going for the workbook explanation of the answers and writing part. So watch these videos very carefully.
Hello friends, this video on Coal and Petroleum Part 7 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. So now the question is, how do we get these useful products out of coal? How do we obtain them from coal? So for that purpose, we have this process called destructive distillation of coal. Now this is a type of distillation where the coal is completely destructed to give all these useful products like coal tar, coal gas, coke, and we will see now how exactly this process happens. Now what do we basically do here? We just heat the coal to a temperature of almost more than 1000 degrees Celsius, and that too in absence of air. So without air, without oxygen, we heat the coal to a very high temperature of 1000 degrees Celsius. Now what happens when we start heating coal to such a high temperature in absence of air? So let's see exactly what's going to happen then. So we will look at the entire arrangement, the entire apparatus, how we will set it up so that we can get the various products out of coal. So for this purpose, we would need a horizontal glass tube. As you can see here, this is the horizontal glass tube. We would need another vertical glass tube. We would need some coal pieces. As you can see here, these are the coal pieces. So basically we are going to heat these pieces of coal. We also need a vertical tube. So here you can see the vertical tube. Now the two tubes are arranged in such a way that they are connected to each other. So you see this glass pipe connects the horizontal tube with the vertical tube. We take some water in the vertical tube. As you can see, some water is present in the vertical tube, and we need a burner to heat the coal. So here you have the burner. So that's all we need to carry out destructive distillation of coal. Now what is going to happen when we heat this coal? So let's see. Now what we observe is, as we heat the coal, some colorless vapors are formed, and these colorless vapors move through these tube and reach the vertical tube. And these colorless vapors condense to form a black viscous layer at the bottom of the vertical tube. And this layer is called coal tar. So if you see, it is a dark viscous layer. So coal tar is a dark, almost black in color. It is a viscous liquid, so it seems to be very thick in nature. So basically you can actually see it for yourself, that over a period of time, from here you can see some vapors. Those vapors travel down the vertical tube, and then in the vertical tube, after some time, they form this dark viscous layer at the bottom, and this is called coal tar. So that's how coal tar is formed. Now when you observe little more closely, you will see that there are some other vapors which form a colorless layer. So as you can see here, the color is it doesn't have any specific color, this layer. So this colorless layer, which is present just above the coal tar, so that is called the liquid ammonia, because it has been found that this layer contains a lot of dissolved ammonia. So this layer is the liquid ammonia. So that's how we get liquid ammonia from coal. Now, yet again, what do we see? That there are certain vapors which do not react in any way. They do not get condensed. They do not form any layer in the vertical tube. But what do? they just go out of this vertical tube. So we can actually see some vapors coming out of this tube. So these vapors are nothing but coal gas. So that's how again we got another product out of coal. And finally, what do we see? That when all the coal is already heated and all these vapors have been formed, so whatever residue is left over in the horizontal tube, that is coke. So the coke which is left out here is, you can say it is almost the purest form of carbon, because it contains more than 60% of carbon in it. So that's how we derived 4 different components from coal. Now why is it called destructive distillation? Because we have destructed the coal. The coal is no more there. But instead of coal, we have so many different useful products: coke, coal gas, liquid ammonia, coal tar. So we got 4 different products from coal. Now you might say that I have been telling since that time that these are useful products. So how are they useful? In what way can we use them? So we will discuss about uses of each of these components which we get as a result of destructive distillation of coal. But before that, let us have a quick review of the various components which we received here. So coal tar, which was coal tar? It was the black viscous layer at the bottom. So this layer was coal tar. Liquid ammonia was the colorless layer above coal tar. So this grayish layer, which is not actually gray, it is actually colorless. There is no color for this layer. So that is liquid ammonia. The unreacted vapor which gets released out, that is nothing but the coal gas. And finally, the porous black residue left in the horizontal tube, that is coke. So this is coke. So these were the 4 different components, or the 4 different products received as a result of destructive distillation. So let's talk about coal tar. So as I said, it is a black viscous liquid. So if you actually put it in a vessel, you can actually feel how viscous and how thick it is, and it is completely black in color. It has an unpleasant smell. So the smell is so bad that you can actually feel its presence nearby. However, it can be useful in manufacturing a lot of products like perfumes, plastics, paints, medicines, naphthalene balls. So these are some of the things where, during manufacturing these things, coal tar turns out to be a useful thing. So it helps in producing so many different substances. So that means it is a useful thing. Next is liquid ammonia. So liquid ammonia is that colorless layer where we find a lot of dissolved ammonia. It acts as an excellent fertilizer for better plant growth. Now, I hope all of you know what is a fertilizer. So these are nothing but substances which, when added to the soil, increases or enhances the productivity of the plants. Because for better growth and development, what do plants need? They need several nutrients, they need several minerals, so they need a lot of things which can help in their growth, and all these things are present in the fertilizers. Now ammonia, what is ammonia? Ammonia is NH3. So ammonia contains nitrogen, and nitrogen is an excellent thing for plant growth. So nitrogen is a macronutrient, a nutrient which is needed in large quantities by plants. So that means liquid ammonia acts as an excellent fertilizer, and that thus it can help in agricultural aspects. So here in this picture you can actually see that in a corn field nitrogen fertilizer is being applied using this tractor. Next is coal gas. So coal gas, it is a mixture of several gases like methane, carbon monoxide, hydrogen, and small amounts of many other gases. So like a lot of gases together form the coal gas. This coal gas is mostly used as a source of heat rather than source of light, because the coal gas can be used as a source of light also. In earlier days it used to be used as a source of light, but these days it is mostly used as a source of heat. It is a flammable gaseous fuel, and it can be supplied to the user via pipeline. So pipeline distribution system, with the help of pipes it can be transported from one place to another. Now before this natural gas supplies came up, coal gas was also used as a fuel, and it was term called a lightning gas, because you see, because it could have been used as a source of light. That was one advantage. The second advantage was that it could be transported very easily with the help of pipelines. So that was coal gas. So it is still now it is used as a fuel, an excellent fuel in industries. And the last one is coke. So coke is the porous black substance which is left as a residue after all the coal is burnt. So it is almost a pure form of carbon because it contains almost 60% carbon, which is a very big percentage. It is used in the manufacturing of steel, because during the process of steel manufacturing, it is used as a reducing agent. Now in fact, you would be surprised to know that there are certain advantages which are associated with coke when compared to coal. Like coal is used for what kind of purposes? Like you burn coal and you generate a lot of energy. So that's how we make use of coal. Now if you use coke instead of coal, you would see that the advantages with coke are more. Why? That's because in case of coke, when you use coke as a fuel, the smoke producing constituents are driven off during coke formation. So when coke is formed from coal, during that time, whatever components produce a lot of smoke and cause air pollution, all those components are removed. So therefore coke is basically more clean when compared to coal. So when you burn coke, so the air pollution is less. So that means coke is a cleaner fuel when compared to coal. So coke is also a desirable fuel for stoves and furnaces. So it is also used as substitute of coal in domestic heating purposes. Now I hope you understood why it is used as a substitute, because it is a cleaner fuel when compared to coal, and it is also a more efficient fuel when compared to coal. So these are the various useful products which are obtained from coal. Now not only this, coke can also be used to produce a lot of different gases. For example, when hot steam is passed over coke. So coke, what is coke? Chemically, coke is like carbon. It is, as I said, it contains more than 50% of it is made up of carbon. So when hot steam is passed over it, then the water vapor, the hot water vapor reacts with the carbon to form carbon monoxide and hydrogen. So this mixture of carbon monoxide and hydrogen forms water gas. So basically, we can say that this water gas in turn helps in preparing coal gas. So that's how we can say that coke acts as the starting material for preparing coal gas and water gas. So that way is also we can say that that is also another advantage of having coke. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again. Hello friends, this video on coal and petroleum part 10 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. So now we are going to discuss about the third fossil fuel, that is natural gas. So natural gas, it is a gas which is even lighter than air, and it is mostly composed of methane. However, it has small amounts of other gases too. It is highly inflammable, that is, it catches fire very easily. It is usually found near petroleum underground. So wherever you have the crude oil deposits, nearby to that you also find natural gas. So that's why, how do you extract it? The same process of oil drilling. So wherever oil drilling is done, that time only the natural gas is also extracted, because you actually know the locality where natural gas is present. It is pumped out and travels through pipelines. So this is another convenience with natural gas, that it can be transported very easily through pipes. In fact, these days natural gas has started substituting a lot of this LPG cylinders in the houses, because when it is so easy that the pipelines can just reach your houses and your demands are fulfilled, so that's a pretty easier way of doing things. Now, another important characteristic of natural gas is that it doesn't have any specific smell, so it is completely odorless. Now, that might make it a little more risky, because if a gas is odorless, you will not be able to detect the presence of that gas. But at the same time, the gas is highly inflammable, so it can catch fire very easily. So if there is no smell, so you will not be able to detect that gas, and it might catch fire very easily, right? So what can be done? So that is why natural gas is mixed with some chemicals which are of very strong odor. So they have very strong smell, so that natural gas can have a specific smell, and that smell can detect the presence of natural gas. So whenever you get that smell, what do? You tend to keep the windows open so that the gas can just go out of that place. You tend to avoid using anything like a matchstick or so that it doesn't catch fire. So in order to bring a smell to the natural gas, some extra chemicals with strong smell are added to it. So that's a brief about natural gas. Now, why is natural gas so important? Now, we already saw how the drilling is done. Now, in natural gas, you do not really have any separate components as such. So, what makes natural gas different and important? So, one thing is, it is very easy to transport through pipeline. So, you really don't need a refinery. You don't need anything. You just bring the gas out from underground. Anywhere where you have crude oil deposits, nearby that you will have natural gas deposits as well. And then you start distributing it through pipeline. So very easy to transport. It can be used as a fuel in vehicles also. And the best part is that it can act as a better fuel in vehicles when compared to petrol or diesel. You know why? Because it causes very less pollution when compared to petrol and diesel. Because in case of petrol or diesel, when you burn them, they leave a lot of residue. So what is that residue? Those residue are nothing but they are the smoke producing causes. So they cause pollution. But in case of natural gas, they leave very small residue. So that ways it has two benefits. One is, since very less residue is left, that means the fuel is more efficient. So most of the fuel is getting utilized. So that ways it is more efficient. Secondly, there will be less smoke produced, so less environmental pollution. So we can maintain a cleaner environment by using natural gas as a motor fuel. That is why CNG, which is nothing but compressed natural gas. So this is compressed natural gas. So it is preferred as a motor fuel over petrol and diesel. In fact, in Delhi, a couple of years back, I think around 2006, the government has passed a notice stating that all the public transport vehicles, all the public buses, all the autos, everything need to run on CNG, and that's how it could reduce to a great extent the environmental pollution. So these are some of the very good benefits of natural gas, and that makes it very important, that makes it very different. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again. Hello friends, this video on coal and petroleum part 9 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. So now we will see how exactly do we separate the various constituents of petroleum. In fact, that is what is done inside a petroleum refinery. So what happens here is, it is an industrial plant where petroleum is separated into its various constituents. So now what we are going to see is how exactly this separation takes place inside a refinery. So we are going to understand the process of separating the constituents of petroleum. Now, the process by which it happens, the separation happens, is a simple distillation process mostly. Now, what are the various components into which it gets divided? So let us quickly look at the various constituents. First is LPG, that is liquefied petroleum gas, and I'm sure all of you are very much known to this name because LPG is something which is there inside your kitchen, inside the cylinders, which helps us in cooking. Petrol, kerosene, diesel, lubricating oil, paraffin wax. So these are all various components of petroleum. So if we are able to separate petroleum into its constituents, we get each of these separately and then we can use them in different ways. For example, petrol is used as a motor fuel. Diesel is also used as a motor fuel. Kerosene is used for lighting lamps. Lubricating oil is again used for lubrication to smoothen the surfaces in machineries. Paraffin wax is used for making candles and many other types of products. So that means different components can be used in different ways, but petroleum or the crude oil as such is not of much use to us. Therefore, this process of refining of petroleum is extremely important. Okay, so last but not the least, bitumen. It is extremely useful for construction of roads. So let us see how the process of petroleum processing takes place. So it is a simple distillation process which helps to obtain finished petroleum products. So what do we have? We have a chamber, a distillation chamber of this kind, which is often termed as a distillation column. And this is the crude oil. So the crude oil is being fed from this end, and in this chamber, the crude oil is heated. Now, as you heat this crude oil, what happens is different components of the crude oil, they have different boiling temperatures. So different components will boil at different temperatures, and as they boil, so each and every component will get collected in different sections of this column. That is why it is called a distillation column, because the entire tube is divided into chambers, and whichever component boils at a particular temperature, that will get collected at a particular chamber. So as you see here, the lowest temperature is at the top and the highest temperature is at the bottom. So those components which boil at higher temperatures, they will get collected here. A little lower temperature will get collected here, yet lower will get collected here. Finally, those which get boiled at the lowest temperature will get collected here. So that's how the components will get separated. So the lighter products, for example, LPG, will boil at lower temperature. So they will get collected towards the top of this distillation column, whereas the heaviest products like maybe paraffin wax or lubricating oil, they will get collected towards the higher end of the temperature. Sometimes, in fact, some of the products might even go to temperatures as higher as 1000 degree Fahrenheit as well. So now let us see how exactly we get the various components. So the topmost layer, that is the lowest temperature basically, that is occupied by the lighter gases like butane and other lighter components. The next section is taken up by petrol or gasoline, whatever you call it. Yet below that comes kerosene. Below that you get diesel or light gas oil. Below that you get heavy gas oil. And at the bottom, that is at the highest temperatures, you get stuffs like paraffin wax, lubricating oil, and others. So now all these things, they boil at different temperatures. For example, for petrol, they boil somewhere around 70 degrees Celsius. Again, if you talk about kerosene, they again boil somewhere around 120 or 130 degrees Celsius. The diesel, they boil above 200 degrees Celsius. Heavy gas oil, they boil somewhere around 300 degrees Celsius. So all of these components, they boil at different temperatures, and that's how we are able to segregate them. And then we can take out each of them separately from the same distillation column. So this is how petroleum gets separated into its components. So now let us quickly look at the importance of the various petroleum products. So we will start with LPG, that is liquefied petroleum gas. It is a fuel which is used for domestic cooking purposes. So as you would have seen, the cylinders, inside your cylinders you have LPG. Petrol, it is a fuel for vehicles, So mostly your cars and bikes, they run on petrol. It is also used as a solvent for dry cleaning. So that way also it helps. Kerosene, it is used as an aviation fuel in the aircraft industry. So when you travel by flights, always remember that the fuel that is being used there. So you have kerosene playing an important role there. So it acts as the base fuel. It is also used as a solvent in a lot of stuffs like paints, cleaners, pesticides, etc. Diesel, again, it is also used for fuel, mostly for heavy vehicles. So if you see vehicles like trucks and vans, they mostly run on diesel. It is also used as a fuel for generators and motors you would have seen in your apartments and all. So they all run on diesel. Next is lubricating oil, which helps in lubrication. Now, for example, in a car, if you see, this lubricating oil plays a very important role because it helps to keep the moving parts of the engine from grinding together or from creating friction. So when the two surfaces become more rough, then too much of friction gets created. So lubrication helps to reduce that. It also plays a very important role in industries that operate a lot of machineries and vehicles, because there you have a lot of friction between different machine parts. So there also this lubricating oil turns out to be extremely useful. Paraffin wax, it is used to make candles, ointment, Vaseline. It is also used as a sealant for jars and bottles, so which actually helps to seal them. So that's some of the places where you see paraffin wax. And last but not the least, bitumen. It is extremely useful in construction of roads. Have you ever seen how roads are being constructed, or have you ever seen how roads are smoothed on the top? So if you have ever come across, you will see that bitumen is that substance which acts as a glue. So when it is mixed with aggregate particles, so it creates a concrete. So it acts as the glue. So when you put some small particles on the glue, so they all stick to it, and that's how the road is smoothened, or the smooth surface of the road is done with the help of bitumen. So bitumen is one very important component of petroleum. In fact, not only bitumen, if you look at petrol or diesel, they are also very much important, because due to their presence, the motor fuel, they all act as motor fuel. So many vehicles run on roads and most of them use petrol or diesel. It is also helpful in sealing flat roofs, because of, again, wherever you have to seal something, wherever you have to put a layer of something, so anything which acts like glue will be helpful, and that's what bitumen does. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again. Hello friends, this video on coal and petroleum part 11 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Now, when we talk about exhaustible resources, that is those resources which are in limited stock, it becomes very important to talk about sustainable management. In fact, management is important because we need to manage the resources in such a way so that they are made available to the future generations as well. So let us see what exactly sustainable management talks about. What is the meaning of sustainable? Sustaining, to sustain something, to retain something, to keep something for the coming generations. So management of natural resources in such a way that the basic need or dependency from these resources is met. It is not that we just want to preserve it for the future generation at the cost of the present generation. Obviously, the basic necessities of the present generation should be met. So again, let us take the example of the same box of chocolates. Now, let us say that the students who came early, they are all hungry. So you have half box of chocolates. Now, we do not want the entire half box to be kept only for those who are going to come late. So those who are coming early, they should also eat a few of them so that they are able to fulfill their hunger. But it shouldn't happen that they ate all of them and whoever came later, they did not get anything. Correct? So their basic needs of the present generation should be met. That is one thing. Next is future generation can also make use of them. That means only basic necessities of the present generation should be met. It shouldn't happen that the present generation is wasting the resources. The present generation is simply not taking care of the resources. That shouldn't happen. You use it for how much ever it is needed, and rest of it you just keep it for the future generations. Use of these resources do not cause too much harm to the environment. Now, these resources should also be used in such a way that the environment is fine. For example, I told you, right, that fossil fuels, they are excellent source of energy, but at the same time, burning fossil fuels releases a lot of harmful gases which cause environmental pollution, which results in acid rain, which causes greenhouse effect, and all these things are not good for the environment. So we need to decide how exactly do we need to make use of different resources. So if we think that, okay, we can minimize burning of fossil fuels by some other way, then we should follow that alternative. One example is, if we make use of petrol as a motor fuel, that is one option, and we make use of CNG as a motor fuel, that is another option. Now, in both the cases, we are making use of natural resources, but in the second case, it is causing less environmental pollution. So we should go with the second option. So that's how we have to take a call, looking at the pros and cons of each and every natural resource. So we should always remember the 3 R's, that is reduce, recycle and reuse. So in order to save the environment, these 3 R's are very useful. Reduce unnecessary usage of natural resources. Now, any natural resource, it could be water, it could be your electricity. So if you are unnecessarily switching on a light, or if you are unnecessarily switching on your fan, you are actually wasting electricity. And from where are you getting that electricity? The electricity is coming from some thermal plant maybe. And that thermal plant is making use of the fossil fuels. They are burning coal to generate the electricity. So you are basically wasting the use of that fossil fuel, so which could have been saved for your future generations. So that means we should reduce any sort of unnecessary usage of natural resources. Second is recycle. Recycle and use the natural resources in different forms. For example, waste segregation. Now, whatever waste products are present in your house, for example, the vegetable wastes, they should be segregated. They should be kept separate when compared to the sanitary waste. Again, when you have different types of paper and everything, they can be recycled. So a newspaper which you read every morning. So once you have read the newspaper, you are not going to read it again some other day, right? So the same newspaper can be used to create some packets. They can be used to cover your books. So that means one particular object can be used or can be recycled to be used for some other purpose, because in order to produce that paper, a lot of resources were being used in the paper factories. So we just do not want to get those resources wasted. So that is why recycle also helps in order to reduce the wastage of natural resources. Third is reuse. If you think that the same resource can be used over and again, please go ahead with it. For example, you buy a bottle of jam. So when the jam gets over, so the bottle might be used for storing something else. Then please go ahead and do it instead of throwing the bottle. Because when you throw the bottle, you are actually, wasting it. So try to reuse the resources which are capable of being reused. Now, some of the examples which shows how energy can be judicially used are: prefer stairs over lift. So when you are using lift, you are actually consuming electricity, and electricity again is dependent on fossil fuels. So prefer stairs. Prefer tube lights over bulbs, because bulbs consume more electricity when compared to tube lights. Prefer cycling over bus, because bus is running on some fuel, either petrol or diesel or CNG. So if you are cycling, so that fuel is being saved. Prefer bus over car. So when you are traveling by a car, it is just one person traveling in a vehicle, but the amount of petrol that is being used is again huge comparatively. But when you are traveling in a bus, maybe some 50 people are traveling in the same vehicle. So that way it is an effective use of the petrol or diesel. Now, in case you are traveling by a car, some certain things which you can remember just to ensure that you are not wasting a lot of petrol or diesel are engine to be switched off and traffic lights, because in traffic lights all you need to do is just sit inside your car. You don't want your car to move. So when you don't want your car to move, why do you unnecessarily want to keep this engine switched on? Because if your engine is on, your fuel is actually getting consumed. So try to switch it off. Correct tire pressure to be maintained, because if the tire pressure is not correct, again your vehicle is consuming or it is wasting fuel. Driving at a decent speed. Now, driving vehicle at a very high speed also leads to wastage of fuel. So please avoid that. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again. Hello friends, this video on coal and petroleum part 12 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. So with this, we have reached towards the end of this lesson on coal and petroleum. So let us quickly look at some of the questions. Question number 1. What are the advantages of using CNG and LPG as fuels? So the most important advantage is that they cause less environmental pollution because they leave very small amount of residue when burnt. They are also easy to transport through pipelines. So it's like you really do not need to create a lot of mess in order to transport them to different localities. They are more efficient. Now, since they do not leave a lot of residue behind them, that also proves that they are more efficient as fuels. Question number 2. Name the petroleum product that is used for surfacing of roads. So yes, that is bitumen, as I said you. It acts as the binder which when mixed with the aggregate particles creates the concrete, and that's how it helps to surface roads. Question number 3. Describe how coal is formed from dead vegetation. What is this process called? Now, coal contains a lot of carbon, and that is why this process is often called as carbonization. It is formed from dead plants which once existed as dense forests, and then maybe due to phenomena like floods, they all sank deep down and over them came up soil and water. So floods buried the dense forests under the soil. As you can see here, these are the dense forests, the dead plants. So above the dead plants were layer of soil, and over a period of time, when I say period of time, I mean millions and millions of years, what happened was this layer of soil kept on increasing. More and more soil got deposited, rocks got deposited, stones and so many other things got deposited. As a result, the dead plants started experiencing more pressure, they got squeezed, they kept going deeper and deeper. So the temperature also increased as they went deeper. So under the effect of high temperature and high pressure, these dead plants lost all their water when squeezed, and they turned into what we call as coal. So high temperature and pressure converted them into coal. So this temperature and pressure, they play a very crucial role here. And this process is termed as carbonization because coal contains a lot of carbon. Question number 4. Fill in the blanks. Fossil fuels are dash, dash and dash. What are the 3 fossil fuels that we talked about? Coal, petroleum and natural gas. Process of separation of different constituents from petroleum is called. So what are the various constituents of petroleum? Petrol, diesel, kerosene, paraffin, wax, lubricating oil. So they are all various components. So what is that process where we separate them? That process is called petroleum refining, and it takes place in a petroleum refinery. Least polluting fuel for vehicle is CNG, that is compressed natural gas, because it leaves very little residue when burnt, and that's how it is more efficient fuel. It causes least environmental pollution. Question number 5. Tick true or false against the following statements. Fossil fuels can be made in the laboratory. Absolutely false. because fossil fuels take millions and millions of years for their formation. So even if you try to create an ambience like that in the laboratory, you cannot manipulate the time. CNG is more polluting fuel than petrol. Well, not really. In fact, it is just the opposite. CNG is less polluting. Coke is almost pure form of carbon. Yes, absolutely. As I said, Coke contains almost 60% of carbon. So obviously it is almost the pure form of carbon. Coal tar is a mixture of various substances. Yes, that is again true. What is coal tar? It is that thick liquid which is formed when the vapor gets condensed. So it is made up of a lot of different substances. Kerosene is not a fossil fuel. Again, that's false. From where do we get kerosene? Kerosene is obtained from petroleum, right? And petroleum is a fossil fuel. So kerosene is also a fossil fuel. Question number 6. Explain why fossil fuels are exhaustible natural resources. This is because even though fossil fuels are formed in nature, but it takes a really long time. It takes millions of years for fossil fuels to form. But the time which it takes for the fossil fuels to get utilized, that is very less. You just burn fossil fuels and they are all gone. So it doesn't really take much time to utilize the fossil fuels, but it takes a huge amount of time for their formation. So that is why we say that these are exhaustible resources. So once you use a fossil fuel, you cannot reuse it again. So that way it is non-renewable. Once you use it up, it tends to get finished. So you just have a limited stock for a long period of time. So that is why we need to use it judiciously. So fossil fuels are formed from dead plants and animals under high temperature and pressure over several millions of years. So it takes these many years. But the rate at which they are being used is very fast when compared to their rate of formation. So that is why they are considered to be present in limited stock and they are called exhaustible natural resources. Question number 7. Describe characteristics and uses of coke. So what was coke? The residue which was left after destructive distillation of coal. So it is a porous black substance. It is almost pure carbon because it contains almost 60% carbon. It is useful in manufacturing steel where it acts as a reducing agent. Now, coke has certain advantages over coal. And that is why it is often used as a substitute of coal. Now, one such advantage is coke is more efficient than coal, because if you look at it, coke contains considering the amount of coal and the amount of coke contains more carbons. Coke stands out to be more efficient. It is also found that those elements or those components of the coal which actually cause a lot of pollution when coal is burned, those components get removed during the process of formation of coke from coal. So that ways coke causes less pollution when compared to coal. So these are some of the advantages of coke, due to which it is used in domestic heating purposes as a substitute to coal. Question number 8. Explain the process of formation of petroleum. So petroleum is formed from the living organisms which once lived in the oceans. Now these organisms were called diatoms. So when they died, they went to the floor of the sea. So they went down towards the sea floor. And then over a period of time, soil and rocks and all those things started getting deposited over those dead organisms. Now, when actually time kept on passing by, so they kept on going deeper and deeper. So the temperature increased as they went deeper. Under this high temperature and the pressure, these dead organisms turned into oil, or what we call as petroleum. So that's how petroleum was formed. So with this, we have reached towards the end of this lesson on coal and petroleum. I hope that this lesson would have helped you to understand about these extremely useful exhaustible resources, and you would have also learned how can we actually judicially use these natural resources so that they can be stored for our future generations as well. So see you all in the next lesson. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again.
Introduction. Hi friends, we can see so many vehicles like bikes, cars, trains, etc. all are running around us. They don't eat any food like any living being do. Then how they get their energy? Yes, they get their energy from fuel. The fuel can either be coal or petroleum product. They provide energy for vehicles to move. In this module, we are going to learn more about these natural energy resources. Objectives. At the end of this module, you'll be able to define natural resources and its types, describe the coal and its other useful products, describe petroleum and its refining process, list the various constituents of petroleum and their uses, describe the natural gas and its importance. Hey dear, what are you doing here? Hey, I am fond of seeing running trains on tracks. Some trains run very speedily while others not. But I observed so many times that some engines emit a lot of fume while others do not. Yeah, you're right, because in some train engines, the fuel source is coal and in others it is diesel. Now electric engines are frequently used all over the world. You know, resources are of two types, natural and man-made. Natural resources such as forests, air, water, soil, coal, petroleum and natural gas are directly obtained from nature. Natural resources can be broadly classified into two categories: inexhaustible natural resources and exhaustible resources. Inexhaustible natural resources are present in abundance, hence it is unlikely that it will be exhausted by any human activity. Sunlight and air are examples of such resources. On other side, the amount of exhaustible resources is limited and they can be exhausted by human activities and consumption. Forests, wildlife, coal, natural gas, petroleum, minerals are the examples of these resources. Do you know that some exhaustible resources like coal, natural gas and petroleum were formed from the dead remains of living organisms called fossils, and hence these are also known as fossil fuels. Hey, now let us know about these fossil fuels in details. Let us start with coal. You may have seen coal in your surrounding. It is hard and black in color. Coal is used for a variety of purposes such as cooking food, running railway engines, thermal plants and various industries. After heating in air, it starts burning and produces carbon dioxide gas. You will be surprised to know that some useful byproducts of coal like coke, coal tar and coal gas are obtained directly from coal. Do you know how these byproducts are helpful for us? At first, let us know about coke. Coke is a tough, porous and black-colored substance. In the manufacturing of steel and extraction of many metals, it is mainly used. Coal tar is a black, thick liquid with unpleasant smell. It is frequently used for manufacturing of synthetic dyes, perfumes, drugs, explosives, paints, plastics, paints, and photographic materials. To obtain coke from coal, coal gas is produced. In many industries located near coal plants, it is used as a fuel. Friends, I know you all are fond of luxury cars and vehicles, but do you know on which fuel do they run on roads? Actually, most of these run on either petrol, diesel, or compressed natural gas, also known as CNG. Petrol and diesel are obtained from a natural resource called petroleum. Do you see that petroleum and natural gas deposits exists as a layer above the water layer? Now let's move on to our next exhaustible natural resource. This is natural gas, also known as compressed natural gas or CNG. It is stored under high pressure as compressed natural gas, CNG. CNG is generally used for power generation, but due to less polluting, it is being used as a fuel for vehicles. It is also used for cooking purposes. Natural gas is also used as a base material for the manufacture of a number of chemicals and fertilizers. Friends, as we know that petrol and diesel are exhaustible resources, that is, the amount of them in nature is limited and will deplete one day, it is important to use these resources carefully while utilizing. Here are a few useful tips for us as advised by the Petroleum Conservation Research Association, PCRA. 1. We should switch off the engine at traffic lights or traffic jams. 2. Drive at a constant and moderate speed as far as possible. 3. We also should ensure regular maintenance of the vehicle and correct air pressure in tires. Summary. Friends, let's summarize what we have learned so far. Natural resources can be broadly classified into inexhaustible and exhaustible resources. In nature, inexhaustible natural resources are present in unlimited quantity and are not likely to be exhausted by any human activity. Sunlight and air are the examples of such resources. The amount of exhaustible resources is limited and they can be exhausted by human activities. Forests, wildlife, coal, natural gas, petroleum, minerals are some of the examples of these resources. Coal, petroleum, and natural gas are known as fossil fuels. These are exhaustible resources. Coke, coal tar, and coal gas are all products of coal. Petroleum gas, petrol, diesel, kerosene, paraffin wax, lubricating oil are obtained by refining petroleum as byproducts. We should use coal, petroleum, and CNG judiciously.